Hey guys, so this is our mini lesson on the Supreme Court, and they do a few things. The Supreme Court, first of all, they administer the oath of office to the president. So here's one of our Supreme Court justices, and here's the back of his head as he is swearing our current president into office. So that is one thing the Supreme Court does. Another thing is they do attend the State of the Union address that the president gives every year. To become a Supreme Court justice, you only have to have one thing according to the Constitution. In Article 3 of the Constitution, it says that you cannot have a criminal record, and that's the only requirement. However, most Supreme Court justices have been a lawyer and then a judge for many years. So usually they have a lot of experience. They're nominated by the president. They can say, hey, we want to offer the job to this person. And then the Senate has to approve that person. So it's one of those checks and balances to make sure someone doesn't have too much power. If the Supreme Court justice is doing something wrong, they can be removed from office. Or originally they have tenure, like they're not elected in for a certain amount of time. They're in there until they die or until they can't do the job anymore, unless they are impeached by both houses of Congress. So moving on, this is our current Supreme Court justices. Notice there are 9 of them. We've always had 9, and notice it's not an even number. It's trying to make sure it can never be a tie. It's always going to be a majority one way or the other. Next here, the main role, like yes, they swear in the president and they go to the State of the Union address, but their main job is to decide if a law violates the Constitution or not. So if a law comes before them, they get to say, we are going to keep this law or we're going to get rid of it, whether or not it was approved by Congress. Congress can approve it, make it a law, and the Supreme Court can turn it over and say, that cannot be a law. It's another check and balance. So going here, they've decided a lot of major court cases that have changed laws in our history. A big one being civil rights or women's rights, where people were marching and saying these laws are not fair. The Supreme Court turned them over and said, you're right, they're breaking this amendment, which makes sure that everyone has a right to equal pay, or it's breaking this amendment that makes sure everyone has a right to an equal education. So what happens, the process starts at the lowest level of a state or low federal court. So if someone has an issue, they take it to court, and the first trial court hears it for the first time. They look at the evidence and they make a decision, decide who they think is right. If I am on trial and I don't like their decision, I appeal it and I go to the Court of Appeals. In the Court of Appeals, usually there's not a jury. There are 3 judges who look at the case and make a decision. So they review the trial court decision for errors, and the decision must be followed by all the courts below them. So if they make a decision, the other court has to turn over its ruling. Now, if I still don't like the decision of the Court of Appeals, I have one more level. I can appeal to the Supreme Court here at the very top. And the Supreme Court is going to look at my case, and they're once again going to look for errors. And then whatever decision they make, all the states and every court in every state has to follow it because it's the Supreme Court, and all lower courts must follow what they say. And the Supreme Court can look at a law and change a law. So if I am put on trial and I'm saying that shouldn't be a law because it's my right to do this, they can say you're right. Even though you're breaking the law is wrong, not you. So that's how the Supreme Court works, to really turn over laws and change them. And there's a few things they could do. They can affirm it, and if they affirm it, I can't appeal anymore. I have to go to prison, or maybe they'll reverse the decision and let me go. Or they could even say, you know what, there were errors made. You have to start over at a trial court and go back through the process because so many things happened wrong. We're just going to have you start over. So the Supreme Court is important. In your lesson today, the activity, you get to be a Supreme Court justice, and you're going to look at a case, and you're going to make a decision, and you're going to decide what is fair, what laws should change. And then the week after, I'll tell you guys what actually happened in history. So I hope you have fun with it. Please let me know if you have any questions, and I'll talk to you guys later.